Two of our favourite outsiders back together here with Rita and James and I. Peter Ridd has had a great time this week. We're going to talk to him in a second about that. He was awarded $1.2 million in damages. You know that court case that's been going on where the James Cook University kicked him out because he told the truth about the Great Barrier Reef? Ooh, heaven forbid. So anyway, he won that court case. Time and time again, those who question the climate hoax end up winning in the courts. Bit of a common story there. Also joining us, Jacinta Price, of course, a favourite with outsiders. She's got her tour on at the moment. So we thought, rather than talk to them separately, let's bring us all together. One big happy outsiders family. Here we are. Jacinta and Peter up there on the wall. How are you both? Peter Ridd, how are you? You must have you spent the 1.2 million yet? Because we're pretty hungry down here. We'll have a couple of bottles of bubbly with you if you like.
Well, unfortunately, we have to wait for the appeal before we can spend it.
Ah, dear. So tell us what happened, Peter. Tell us about your week.
Well, the judge handed down the judgment that, 1.2 million. I couldn't go back to work, unfortunately, but that was a good. But unfortunately, the university said they're going to appeal. They just can't see they've done anything wrong. So
okay, sorry,
that's our taxpayer dollars will be funding this appeal. There's no consequences for the university as far as legal feels because we all pay for it.
Exactly, and the Vice-Chancellor doesn't have to spend a cent of her own money at all, whereas I'm going to have to go and beg for more money to pay for the appeal again.
Jacinta, you're on your tour at the moment. We'll talk to Peter more about the Great Barrier Reef, but tell us about how the tour's going.
Well, it's been going fantastically so far.
Good, excellent. You had a big night last night?
Had a great night here in Sydney last night. Such a wonderful, warm audience. I had a lovely Aboriginal lady who was in the audience, an elderly lady who thanked me and gave me her support for talking the way in which she thinks and believes on a lot of these issues and encouraging me to continue to do that sort of thing. And I've had Indigenous people along the way coming to my talks doing exactly that. So I'm really encouraged by the support that I've been getting all over.
Well, the thing that both Jacinta and Peter have obviously in common is that they both fight for free speech, for the right to be heard. They fly in the face of the mad leftist propaganda everywhere. Both of you are incredibly brave individuals. You're both fighting very similar fights. Peter, let's just talk about where you're up to. You've also been speaking up in the far north Queensland about the Great Barrier Reef. Tell us the latest work you've been doing on the Great Barrier Reef. Tell us what you've been finding out.
Well, we went down to some famous corals that were supposedly totally dead on Stone Island. This was with Jennifer Marahasi, and of course we found wonderful corals there, as you'd expect. But we're also doing a major speaking tour in Queensland at the moment, and we're going down to central Queensland next week.
And where can people get tickets to that, Peter?
Oh, they should be able to find them on the web. You should be able to find them there.
Excellent. OK, so Jacinta, tell us about... you've had a few struggles with your tour. You've had a few hiccups. The left don't like you. They've made that very clear, despite the fact you should be in Parliament, and I can't wait till the day you are. But how have they been putting little roadblocks and causing mischief for you?
Well, there's been issues popping up with regards to my event in Coffs Harbour. I've had the council ask me that I seek permission to enter on their land by the Gumbaynggirr people, and that I also ensure that I perform a welcome to country, which, I'm fully aware, and many Aboriginal people are aware, that welcome to country isn't a traditional ceremony. It is a modern construct that's about commodifying Indigenous people. And
Isn't it dreamt up by Ernie Dingo, the actor?
Well, I'm actually doing a bit of research and looking into it, and there's a lot of different things that have been coming forward in terms of where it's come from. That is definitely one aspect of it, and I think probably others have jumped onto that, and probably others are trying to claim also that they have been doing the work.
So you said in Coffs Harbour you won't do it, or you'll think about it, or what's the story there?
Well, I haven't done it, and I haven't done it for the reason that I'm trying to be authentic. A lot of people engage in these sorts of things because they want to appear as though they're not being racist. Well, I don't have any reason to do that. I just want to engage human beings as human beings, regardless of what, our backgrounds are. And the assumption is that somehow I'm going to be speaking for those people in those places. I'm not doing that at all. I'm sharing my personal experiences, and people are somehow threatened by that. And a lot of it, nobody from Coffs Harbour, from that Indigenous community, has contacted me personally to ask me if what it is I am actually going to talk about, to engage with me on a human level. They've just made their assumptions. And said some...
And they've put out a press release now. These 9 local Aboriginal organisations of this most poorly written, ridiculous press release. And part of it is just, I mean, I think you should take a page out of Peter Ridd's book and pursue some legal action, because there is just defamation throughout this.
Yes.
And just, you know, flaws in logic. One of them is that you do not have support in the Aboriginal community, evident by her inability to be elected at the recent federal election. Well, that was a seat that has always since the election been held by Labor.
And you did incredibly well in it.
Close to winning it, so that's their proof. And it's also clear, according to this, that most of Miss Price's online followers are racists. And the people coming to see you, coming to pay to see an Indigenous woman speak, they are racist. I mean, is that how racists behave?
That's how it works, apparently, because what racist actually means is you're not of the left. That's what racism means nowadays.
Absolutely.
Peter Ridd, the left had a go at you. Media Watch is the program. We actually employ Media Watch to make ads for us, and they do a great job. Paul Barry is a very, very talented man. Every week he puts a clip of Outsiders, and our ratings just go up and up and up. So we love Paul Barry, so I won't hear a word against him. But he was very rude about you, Peter, which should be good news for you, because, in fact, the court immediately gave you $1.2 million. So I think that's the Paul Barry effect at work. But tell us, why did Media Watch have a crack at you? What was that all about? What do they know about the Great Barrier Reef?
Well, essentially, I think that's the 4th time I've been on Media Watch, which I think is a record for a scientist. But essentially they're saying that really you shouldn't talk to Peter Ridd unless you talk to 11 wise men who disagree with me and claim that I'm like a tobacco industry denier and basically an evil person. That was essentially the gist of what they were saying there. But it's interesting, the similarities between what Jacinta is going through, which is, by the way, far worse than what I'm going through, and my case, that you're just not allowed to say some things at all.
Absolutely. And the hatchet job on you was disgraceful. But Jacinta, you've had a hatchet job from the ABC. I remember during the election campaign, these ugly false allegations they threw at you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, they put me on the spot and said, well, why should we listen to you when your mother has apparently... you know, misused funds and used...
That was disgraceful.
And I stopped him right there and I said, please retract those comments, because they're lies, basically. And he said, oh, well, I will for now, but then I'll get back to you. So he wasn't going to acknowledge that. At that point, he had to go back and do his research, which he obviously hadn't done prior to the interview.
James?
I mean, the common thread between both of you guys here is really that the left cannot argue their points, but they just simply want to shut up and smear anybody. And as we keep saying on this show, raise the cost of doing business for people who are outside of the mainstream narrative. So good on both of you guys. Professor Ridd, I want to ask you a question, though, just about procedure here. We've seen with other famous appeal cases in Australia, you need to have some sort of grounds. Do you think that the university will actually have grounds to appeal, or can the court just say, no, there's no grounds for appeal, everything was above board with this case, and go on your way and pay the judgment?
I think that is possible. I'm not a legal expert, but I think that essentially is the case. Yeah, they may not be given grounds at all, but we will see. The thing is, the Vice-Chancellor is hurting now because she's been shown to be essentially wrong on so many cases, and there's no downside to her to employ some very expensive legal people to try to exonerate her. So that's what she's going to do, at least in the meantime.
But surely that there's a board of trustees or something like that at some point is going to rein them in and say, this is not a good use of taxpayer money. You would hope that the Palaszczuk government might say that, but I don't have any hope of that. But there must be some sort of governance board that will say this is a waste of time and money and reputation.
Exactly, and unfortunately they don't seem to be doing too much either. It's very, very disappointing. It really just shows the general corruption of the university system in general, that it's got to this ridiculous stage, and the damage that's been done to the reputation of James Cook University, which is my university. You know, I love that university, and it's been damaged now by this ridiculous situation.
Now, Peter, sorry, Rita. Peter, You mentioned earlier that, you know, for you, the great love is the work you do. The great love is being a scientist, exploring what's happening to the Great Barrier Reef. You love the Great Barrier Reef. They've denied you now. They're not re-employing you, you said, which is what you really wanted rather than the money. So what will you be doing going forward? Is there another university you can go to? Do you work by yourself? What's the future hold for Peter Ridd?
Look, as the judge said, I'm damaged goods now. No university would want me. And frankly, let's be honest, all the universities are just as bad. So I'm going to be working on this business of trying to make sure that the science quality is improved. And that's what my speaking tour is about. We've got to get government funding to be diverted into checking the science so that people are making decisions based on proper science rather than what's happening at the moment. You know, there's new legislation coming in Queensland that's going to affect every farmer massively, and it's based on, frankly, very dodgy, poorly quality assured science, and that's what I'm going to be working on for the next few years.
Fantastic. Peter Ridd, always great to have you. You've got much support amongst the Outsiders community. I urge people who are up there in Queensland to go to Peter's talks, and you'll find them. Google Peter Ridd, Far North Queensland, and I'm sure you'll find something there. Peter Ridd, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks very much.
And good luck. And Jacinta, tell us what's next on the tour and where people can see you.
Okay, so next, tomorrow night, I'm at the Newcastle Museum in Newcastle. Following that, I will be going to Coffs Harbour, and I won't be subject to cultural bullying. I'm not going to let people stop me from being able to speak my truth. Following Coffs Harbour is then Brisbane, and after that is Toowoomba.